The rumble came first deep and primal, like distant thunder across an empty plain. 32 Harley-Davidson motorcycles rounded the corner in perfect formation, chrome gleaming under the morning sun. The earth seemed to tremble as they approached Lincoln Middle School, the convoy stretching nearly a block long. Inside the school's main hall, 11-year-old Ethan Miller felt his heart hammering against his ribs. His palms were slick with sweat as he peered through the classroom window. Would they actually come? Or would this be another broken promise from adults who claimed they cared? The bruise around his left eye had faded to a sickly yellow-green. He touched it gingerly, remembering the moment Marcus's fist had connected with his face 3 nights ago, all because he'd forgotten to take out the trash while his mother worked the night shift at Memorial Hospital. Principal Walter stepped into the hallway, his face contorting with confusion as the rumble outside grew louder. Parents gathered for career day exchanged nervous glances. Teachers moved to the windows. And then they arrived. 32 motorcycles pulling into perfect formation in the school parking lot, engines cutting simultaneously like a well-rehearsed orchestra. 32 men in leather vests emblazoned with the Iron Horseman insignia dismounting in disciplined unison. At their head walked Jack Hammer Davidson, president of the Iron Horseman Motorcycle Club, his gray beard nearly reaching the eagle patch on his chest, combat boots striking the pavement with military precision.
What on earth? Principal Walters muttered.
Ethan straightened his shoulders and stepped forward. "They're with me, sir," he said, his voice steadier than he felt. "For career day." The principal's eyebrows nearly disappeared into his hairline, but before he could respond, Ethan was already walking toward the parking lot, toward the men who had promised to be his fathers for a day. 3 days earlier, fate had driven him to their doorstep. The Iron Horseman clubhouse sat on the edge of town, an unassuming brick building with blacked-out windows and a heavily reinforced door. Most people in Riverdale gave it a wide berth, whispering about the dangerous men who gathered there. But Ethan knew better. He stood across the street, clutching the dog tags that had belonged to his father. The metal felt cool against his palm, the embossed letters reading Miller James A. USMC. His dad had died in Iraq 4 years ago, but Ethan still remembered his words. "If you're ever in trouble, real trouble, find my brothers at the Iron Horseman. Show them these, they'll help you." Ethan had never needed that help before, but now, with career day looming and the bruises spreading across his ribs, he'd run out of options. "Simple Man" by Leonard Skinner played from somewhere inside as Ethan approached the door, his heart in his throat. The song his father used to hum while working on his motorcycle in their garage. An omen, perhaps. He raised his hand to knock, then hesitated. What if they laughed at him? What if they turned him away? What if they were nothing like the men his father had described? The decision was made for him when the door suddenly swung open. A mountain of a man with a shaved head and a full beard filled the doorway, blocking out the light.
Bear was his road name, Ethan would later learn, and it suited him perfectly.
"You lost, kid?" Bear asked, his voice like gravel, but not unkind. Ethan swallowed hard. "I'm looking for Jack Davidson." Bear's eyes narrowed, scanning the empty street behind Ethan. "What's your business with the president?" Ethan held up the dog tags. "My dad was James Miller. He said if I ever needed help." Something shifted in Bear's expression. He stepped aside, gesturing for Ethan to enter. "Come in, son." The interior of the clubhouse was nothing like Ethan had imagined. Clean, organized with memorabilia covering the walls, military flags and patches, framed photographs of men on motorcycles. A pool table dominated the center of the main room, surrounded by comfortable leather furniture. A bar ran along one wall, its shelves stocked with amber bottles. 12 men turned to stare as Ethan entered. The music stopped abruptly. Conversations died mid-sentence. At the far end of the bar sat a man in his late 50s with a salt and pepper beard and penetrating blue eyes. Jack Davidson. Even if Bear hadn't nodded in his direction, Ethan would have known him. His father had described the club president many times. "What brings a kid to our doorstep on a Tuesday afternoon?" Jack asked, his voice carrying across the suddenly silent room. Ethan stepped forward, feeling 12 pairs of eyes boring into him. He was acutely aware of his black eye, the scuffed sneakers that were a size too small, the worn backpack hanging off one shoulder. "My name is Ethan Miller," he began. "James Miller was my dad." A ripple passed through the room. Jack set down his coffee mug, slowly, his eyes locking onto Ethan's face.
"Falcons, boy," he said quietly. It wasn't a question.
Ethan nodded, surprised to hear his father's call sign. "Yes, sir." Jack moved toward him, his eyes taking in the bruise. "That's a nasty shiner you've got there. How'd it happen?" "Fell off my bike." Ethan answered automatically, the lie practiced and familiar. A man leaning against the pool table snorted. "Try again, kid." Ethan recognized him from his father's stories too. Mike, Diesel Wilkins, the club's mechanic and his father's closest friend. Jack crouched down to Ethan's eye level, close enough that Ethan could smell leather and motor oil. Your father never lied to us, son, and we never lied to him. That's how Brotherhood works. Something broke inside Ethan then. Perhaps it was Jack's gentle tone, or the way these hard men looked at him, not with pity, but with understanding. Or maybe it was simply hearing someone speak of his father as if he'd been real important, someone worth remembering. It was Marcus. He admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. My mom's boyfriend. He gets mad when she's at work. Yesterday, I forgot to take out the trash. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Jack's jaw tightened. Diesel's knuckles went white around his beer bottle. And school? Jack asked, his voice carefully controlled. How's that going? Ethan laughed, but there was no humor in it. There's this kid Tyler. He and his friends corner me every day. Call me orphan boy. Push me into lockers. Steal my lunch. He looked down at his shoes, scuffed and worn. Last week they threw my dad's dog tags in the trash. I had to dig through garbage to find them. Jack's eyes found Diesel first, then moved to each man in the room. A silent conversation seemed to pass between them. These men understood what it meant to be targeted, to feel powerless, to fight battles that seemed unwinnable. Why come to us? Asked Ray Hawk Thompson from his perch near the window. Why the Iron Horseman? Ethan met his gaze steadily. Because my dad said you were his brothers. Because you're not afraid of anyone. Tyler's dad is some big-shot lawyer. Nobody stands up to them. He gestured around the room. Everyone respects you. Everyone's a little scared of you. I thought maybe if you came just for one day, they'd leave me alone. He swallowed hard. It's career day at school on Friday. Everyone's bringing their parents to talk about their jobs. I don't have anyone to bring. The silence that followed was heavy with memory. Every bad childhood these men had survived seemed to press into the room. Diesel, who'd grown up in foster homes. Bear, whose father had been liberal with his fists. Tony Ghost Martinez, who'd lost his entire family in a crash that left him as the only survivor. Hawk, who'd lived on the streets at 15. Friday, you said. Jack finally asked, what time? 9:30, room 204. Hope flickered across Ethan's face like sunrise. You'll come. Jack turned to his brothers. Who's got Friday morning free? Every single hand went up. All right then, Jack said, turning back to Ethan. A small smile softened his weathered face. We'll be there. All of us. Ethan's eyes widened. Really, all of you? Brotherhood isn't part-time, kid, Diesel said, moving closer. And your dad saved every man in this room at least once. We owe him. Jack's expression turned serious. But Ethan, this thing with Marcus, does your mom know how bad it is? The smile faded from Ethan's face. She's so tired all the time. She's working so hard to keep us afloat after Dad died. I don't want to make things harder for her. Protecting your mom by taking hits isn't noble, kid. Jack said, his voice gentle but firm. It's just more pain going around, for both of you. I don't know what else to do, Ethan admitted. Jack knelt down, putting them eye to eye. You just did it. You asked for help. That takes more guts than most grown men ever show. He placed a steady hand on Ethan's shoulder. We're going to handle this. Career day is just the beginning. As Ethan left his backpack somehow lighter, the clubhouse erupted in quiet conversation. They had 4 days to plan, 4 days to make sure one scared kid learned what it felt like to have 32 fathers show up when it mattered. Jack watched through the window as Ethan walked away and noticed something. The boy's steps were different, stronger. His steps carried a weight they hadn't before, not burden, but purpose. Sarah Miller's hands shook as she inserted the key into the apartment door. 30 hours on shift at Memorial Hospital had left her drained, her scrubs, rumpled, her blonde hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. All she wanted was a shower and sleep, preferably uninterrupted by Marcus's demands. The apartment was quiet as she entered. Too quiet. No television blaring sports. No beer cans littering the coffee table. No Marcus sprawled across the couch. Ethan, she called, a note of worry creeping into her voice. Honey, are you home? She found him in his bedroom, carefully ironing the only button-up shirt he owned, the one she'd bought for his father's funeral. Her heart clenched at the sight. Big day? She asked, leaning against the doorframe. Ethan jumped slightly, then smiled. Career day at school. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. I completely forgot with the double shifts this week. Guilt washed over her face. I couldn't have gotten off anyway. We're so short-staffed. It's okay, Mom. I figured something out. She studied his face, noticing something different there. Something that looked almost like hope. It had been so long since she'd seen that expression on her son's face that she'd almost forgotten what it looked like. "You sure you're all right?" she asked her nurse's eye, automatically assessing the fading bruise around his eye. Marcus had claimed Ethan had walked into a door. She'd pretended to believe it, hating herself for the cowardice. "I'm sure," Ethan said with more confidence than she'd heard from him in years. She nodded, too exhausted to press further. "Where's Marcus?" "Out with his friends. Said he wouldn't be back tonight." Relief flooded through her, though she tried not to show it. One night of peace, one night without walking on eggshells. It was more than she'd hoped for. "Get some sleep, Mom," Ethan said. "You look tired." Sarah pressed a kiss to his forehead. When had her little boy started taking care of her instead of the other way around? Dawn broke over Riverdale with the promise of rain. Heavy clouds hung low, threatening to burst. Ethan woke at 5 a.m. too anxious to sleep. He'd replayed Jack's promise 1,000 times in his mind, terrified it had been just words. Adults made promises. Adults broke them. That's what he'd learned. He dressed carefully in his freshly ironed shirt, the blue fabric stark against his pale skin. Around his neck, he placed the UJD bracelet his father had given him before his last deployment. What would Jesus do? His father had worn an identical one under his uniform. In the kitchen, Sarah kissed his forehead, noticing he'd barely touched his cereal. "Big day, sweetheart." "Yeah, career day." She hesitated. "Ethan, I'm sorry I couldn't take off work. The hospital is so short-staffed since the budget cuts, and we really need the overtime pay with the mortgage payment coming up." "It's okay, Mom. I figured something out." She studied his face again, seeing that same strange confidence. "You sure you're all right?"
I'm sure.
At school, Tyler Prescott was waiting by the lockers with his usual crew, Brett and Chase, both bigger than Ethan, both cruel in that casual way privileged kids could afford to be. "Look who showed up." Tyler sneered, his designer clothes and perfectly styled hair a stark contrast to Ethan's worn attire. "Ready for your big presentation, orphan boy?" "Oh, wait, you don't have anyone coming, do you?" Ethan kept walking head down. "My dad's bringing his BMW." Tyler continued stepping into Ethan's path. "He's a lawyer for celebrities." "What's yours? Bringing?" "Oh, right." "A coffin," Brett finished, and the three boys laughed. Tyler shoved Ethan into the lockers. His shoulders screamed in pain, but he didn't react. He just kept walking toward room 204, counting his steps, breathing through his nose the way his father had taught him when the world felt too big, too scary, too much. By 9:15, the classroom was filling with parents. Tyler's father arrived in a tailored suit, shaking hands like he was running for office. Brett's mother, a dermatologist, brought a display of skincare products. Chase's father, an architect, carried rolled blueprints. Ms. Thompson, Ethan's teacher, cast him sympathetic glances as he sat alone in the back row watching the clock. The minutes crawled. Each tick tightened the knot in his chest. They weren't coming. Of course they weren't. Why would they? Then just past 9:30, the rumble started. It was distant at first, like thunder rolling in from miles away, but it grew and grew until the windows rattled and conversation stopped, and everyone, students, teachers, parents, rushed to look outside. 32 motorcycles rolled into the school parking lot in perfect formation. Chrome gleamed even under the gray sky. Engines roared in synchronized harmony. The Iron Horsemen had arrived. Ethan's heart nearly exploded. They came. They actually came. Jack led the procession, his bike the loudest, his presence commanding. They parked in a perfect V formation, killed their engines simultaneously, and dismounted like a military unit. Every jacket bore the Iron Horseman insignia. Every face carried the weathered look of men who'd survived their own wars. Ms. Thompson stood frozen at her desk as the bikers filed into her classroom. They were too big for the space, too raw, too real. Tyler's father, William Prescott, stepped back, his hand protectively on his son's shoulder. Several mothers pulled their children closer. "Ethan Miller." Jack's voice filled the room. Ethan stood, legs shaking but chin high. "Here."
We're here for you, kid.
The classroom exploded in whispers. Tyler's smirk had vanished. His father looked like he'd swallowed glass. Jack addressed the class with the calm authority of someone used to leading. "Morning, everyone. We're the Iron Horseman Motorcycle Club. Ethan asked us to talk about what we do, so let's get into it." He started with the basics. How motorcycles work, the engineering behind them, the physics of balance and torque. Diesel stepped forward and opened a leather satchel, revealing disassembled engine parts, which he passed around the classroom. "This here's a twin-cam 88 engine," he explained. "Heart of a Harley-Davidson Softail, gives you that distinctive rumble that lets people know you're coming from a mile away." The children, initially frightened, began to lean forward with interest. Diesel had a natural way of explaining complex mechanisms that made them understandable even to 11-year-olds. Bear moved to the front next and talked about the club's community programs, toy drives for children's hospitals, fundraisers for veterans, escort services for abuse survivors going to court. Most people see the patches and make assumptions. Bear said, his voice surprisingly soft for such a large man. They think we're criminals or troublemakers. Brotherhood means being there when it counts, especially when it's hard. William Prescott snorted quietly but said nothing. Then Ghost moved to the front. He was quieter than the others, his eyes carrying old wounds. I grew up in a house where love looked like a fist, he began. The room went silent. My father drank, he raged, he made me believe I was nothing. Ethan watched his classmates lean forward, even Tyler was listening. By 13, I was heading down the same path, fighting, stealing, hating everyone, including myself. Ghost's eyes found Jack. Then I met these men. They gave me a choice: keep destroying myself or build something better. This club, this family, they taught me that real strength isn't about violence. It's about protecting people who can't protect themselves. It's about breaking cycles instead of continuing them. Ms. Thompson was crying quietly at her desk. Hawk pulled out a photograph. This is Bear at 15, living in a shelter after his old man put him in the hospital. This is Diesel after 3 tours in Iraq with nobody waiting at home. This is Jack the day his daughter said she was proud of him. He looked directly at Ethan. We're not perfect. We've all got scars, but we choose every day to be better than what broke us. Jack turned to Ethan. You asked us to be your dad for one day, but here's the thing, kid. Real family doesn't work on schedules. You're stuck with us now. The entire class erupted in applause. Brett was clapping. Chase looked stunned. Tyler sat frozen, something complicated working across his face. After the presentation, as parents filed out, William Prescott approached Jack with a forced smile. Quite the performance. Jack met his eyes steadily. Your boy gives Ethan trouble. That stops today. The lawyer's smile died. Are you threatening me? I'm promising there's a difference. Outside, as the bikers prepared to leave, Ethan couldn't find words big enough for what he felt. Jack just squeezed his shoulder. See you tomorrow, kid. We're teaching you to change oil. As 32 engines roared back to life, Ethan stood in the parking lot and watched his family ride away. Something shifted in his chest, a door opening he didn't know had been locked. The weekend passed in a blur of normalcy that felt almost surreal. Ethan spent Saturday at the clubhouse learning basic motorcycle maintenance, his hands black with grease, his smile impossible to wipe away. Jack taught him how to check oil levels. Diesel showed him the difference between a wrench and a socket. For 2 days, the weight he'd carried since his father died felt lighter. But Monday brought reality crashing back. Marcus had seen the video. Some parent had posted it on Facebook. Local bikers steal the show at career day, and it had spread through the community like wildfire. By the time Marcus stumbled home Monday evening, 3 beers deep and smoldering with humiliation, he'd watched it 17 times. Ethan heard the truck before he saw it, that particular engine growl that made his stomach clench. He was at the kitchen table doing homework when Marcus kicked the door open. You think you're special now? Marcus's words slurred at the edges. Got your little biker friends. Ethan's mother wouldn't be home for another 2 hours. He calculated escape routes. Front door, blocked by Marcus, back door through the kitchen. His phone was upstairs. I asked you a question. Marcus moved closer and Ethan could smell the beer, the rage, the familiar scent of violence about to break loose. I just needed someone for career day. You made me look like garbage. Everyone at the bar was talking about it. Poor Ethan, no father figure. Marcus's hand shot out and grabbed Ethan's shirt, lifting him slightly. You got a father figure right here. You're not my father. The words escaped before Ethan could stop them. Marcus's face went purple. His fist drew back. Ethan closed his eyes, body tensing for impact. The blow never landed. The front door opened, not kicked, not forced, just opened with a key that hadn't existed an hour ago. Jack walked in first, followed by Diesel and Bear. 3 more Iron Horsemen flanked the entrance. They moved with unhurried purpose, filling the small apartment with their presence. Marcus's fist remained frozen midair.
What the? Get out of my house.
Not your house, Jack said calmly, pulling out his phone. Lease is in Sarah Miller's name. You're just living here. He tapped the screen. Sarah gave us a key this afternoon. She's known for a while something was wrong, just didn't know how to handle it. Marcus dropped Ethan and lunged toward Jack. Bear stepped between them with the easy confidence of someone who'd handled much worse. Don't, Bear said quietly. You don't want to do that. Jack moved past them to Ethan, checking him over. You good? Ethan nodded, throat too tight for words. Ghost placed a manila folder on the kitchen table. It landed with a soft thump that sounded like thunder. Open it, he told Marcus. Marcus's bravado flickered. His hands shook as he picked up the folder. Inside were photographs. Ethan with bruises over the past 6 months. Time-stamped medical records from the school nurse documenting suspicious injuries. A written statement from Ms. Thompson detailing behavioral changes. Text messages Marcus had sent Sarah, threatening and cruel. Where did you... Ethan's school nurse has been documenting for months, Jack explained. She was building a case but waiting for the right moment. Sarah's coworkers at the hospital have noticed her injuries too, the ones you blamed on her being clumsy. His voice remained level, almost conversational. We talked to a lot of people this weekend. Turns out you've left quite the trail. Marcus's face had gone from purple to white. You can't. We already did. Bear pulled out another document. Protective order ready to file. We've got 3 witnesses who will testify about what they've seen. Sarah's lawyer, a real one, not whatever you threaten her with, is prepared to pursue full protection. Jack leaned against the counter. Here's how this works. You have 2 choices, and you need to make one right now. Marcus looked around the room, seeing his options narrow to nothing. Choice 1, you pack your things, you leave tonight, and you never contact Sarah or Ethan again. You disappear. We'll hold on to these files, but we won't file them. You get to walk away clean, start over somewhere else. Jack's expression never changed. Choice 2, we file everything tonight. Police get involved. Child Protective Services gets involved. Sarah pursues charges for domestic violence. Yes, we've got evidence of that too. You'll be arrested by morning, and everyone in this town will know exactly who you are. Marcus deflated his bravado, collapsing under the weight of consequence. He looked at Ethan one last time, and for a moment something almost like regret crossed his face. But it passed. I need an hour to pack. You've got 30 minutes, Diesel said, checking his watch. We'll wait. Less than half an hour later, Marcus's truck pulled out of the driveway, packed with everything he owned. The bikers had stood silent watch as he loaded boxes, ensuring he took nothing that belonged to Sarah or Ethan. As the taillights disappeared, Jack called Sarah. It's done. He's gone. Ethan's safe. When Sarah arrived home 40 minutes later, she found her son sitting at the kitchen table, surrounded by 6 bikers eating pizza they'd ordered. Her eyes went to Ethan first, checking for new injuries, seeing none, then to Jack. Is he really gone? He won't be back. We made that very clear. She collapsed into a chair as tears came. Relief flooding through her like a dam breaking. Pure, overwhelming relief. Bear quietly slid a box of tissues across the table. Why? She whispered. Why would you do this for us? Jack looked at Ethan, then back at her. Because someone needed to, and because that kid was brave enough to ask. That night, after the bikers left, Ethan lay in bed staring at the ceiling. The apartment felt different, lighter. The air moved through rooms that had been suffocating for years. His phone buzzed, a text from Jack. Sleep tight, kid. We're around if you need us. That night, Ethan slept through to morning, a deep, dreamless sleep he hadn't known in years. The Iron Horseman clubhouse had become Ethan's second home. He showed up most afternoons doing homework at the bar, while bikers worked on engines. His grades improved, the bruises faded, his mother smiled more. But Jack noticed something else. Tyler had stopped bullying Ethan completely. No more shoves, no insults, nothing. But the kid looked worse, quieter, withdrawn, with dark circles under his eyes that Jack recognized too well. Hawk, Jack said one Thursday afternoon, that Tyler kid, something's off. The bully, former bully, I want to know why. Hawk made some calls. By Friday they had answers. Tyler's mother had died years earlier. Cancer that came fast and left devastation. His father, William Prescott, that polished lawyer, had been drowning in grief ever since. Drinking became the only way he could function. Tyler raised himself while his father worked 16-hour days or sat in his study with bourbon. The kid's acting out because he's alone, Hawk reported. Dad's physically there, but emotionally gone. Jack drummed his fingers on the table. So Tyler becomes the bully because he's getting bullied at home. Not with fists, but with absence. Then we fix it, Jack decided. Bear looked up from his coffee. The kid tortured Ethan for months. And Ethan had Marcus, Jack replied. Tyler has a ghost wearing his father's face. Diesel nodded. We break cycles, that's what we do. The next morning, Jack and Diesel showed up at William Prescott's office unannounced. The secretary tried to stop them, but years of intimidating people had its advantages. William looked up from his desk, irritation flashing across his face. This is a place of business. You can't just barge in here. Your son is drowning, Jack said simply, and you're too drunk to notice. My son is fine. Security will show you out. When's the last time you had dinner with him? Jack waited. William's silence answered. When's the last time you asked about his day, looked at him without seeing your dead wife? You need to leave.
We know about the drinking, William. We're not here to judge. We're here because we've been lost. Grief that feels like drowning. Diesel's voice was gentle. Pain so big you need to numb it just to survive. William's legs seemed to give out. He sat back down heavily. I don't know how to be a father without her.
Jack pulled up a chair. My daughter was 7 when her mother left. I was patched into the club, drowning in bottles just like you. One night I came home and found her making dinner, a 7-year-old trying to feed herself because I was too wasted.
His voice roughened. That was my rock bottom.
It's not too late for you.
Diesel slid a business card across the desk. Veteran Support Group meets Tuesday and Thursday nights. You served right.
William nodded, surprised they knew. So did half of us. These guys get it.
Diesel leaned forward. Your son needs his father back. The real one.
William's hand shook as he picked up the card. And if I try, we'll help Tyler too, youth mentorship program we run. Jack stood. But this only works if you both want it. Days later, William attended his first meeting. He broke down twice, nearly left 3 times, but Jack sat beside him the entire 2 hours.
Tyler was harder to reach.
When Hawk approached him after school, the kid's defenses shot up. I'm not going to some stupid program. 12 kids your age working on motorcycles, learning carpentry, talking about real stuff.
Hawk crossed his arms.
No thanks.
Ethan goes.
That stopped Tyler cold. Miller, why would he want me there after what I did? Ask him yourself. The confrontation happened at the clubhouse the following Saturday. Ethan was sanding wood when Tyler walked in, escorted by Hawk. The room went quiet. Ethan stood slowly. They stared at each other across the workshop. I'm sorry, Tyler's voice cracked, for everything. The things I said about your dad, the locker stuff, the dog tags. Ethan studied him for a long moment. He'd learned something from Jack. Carrying hate was heavier than letting it go. Your mom died, right? Tyler nodded. Cancer, 3 years ago. That sucks. My dad died too. Ethan set down the sandpaper. You want to help me finish this bookshelf? I'm terrible at corners. Tyler's eyes widened. Serious? Jack says we're better at building things than breaking them. Ethan shrugged. Might as well start now. And with that simple exchange, something broken began to heal, not just between 2 boys, but within an entire community. The Iron Horsemen had shown up when it mattered most. They'd kept their promise to a brother long gone, protecting his son when he couldn't. But this was just the beginning. There were still battles to fight, scars to heal, a brotherhood to build. The storm clouds that had threatened all week finally broke that afternoon, rain hammering the clubhouse roof, as Ethan taught Tyler how to sand wood grain. Inside, surrounded by men who understood pain but chose to be better than what had broken them, 2 boys began to find their way forward. Outside, the world kept turning. But in that moment, in that place, something profound had shifted. A legacy was being honored. A future was being built. 1 nail, 1 board, 1 act of courage at a time. Brotherhood's Promise, Part 2. Winter gave way to spring in Riverdale. Trees that had stood naked against gray skies now burst with pale green buds. The world renewed itself, much like the lives of those touched by the Iron Horsemen. For Ethan Miller, life had transformed in ways he could never have imagined. The apartment he shared with his mother felt like a home again. Sarah smiled more, laughed, often worked manageable shifts at the hospital now that they weren't supporting Marcus's drinking habits. And the dark cloud that had hung over them for years had finally dissipated. But the greatest change was in Ethan himself. The quiet, withdrawn boy who'd kept his head down and avoided attention had found his voice. His grades improved, he walked taller, and every afternoon after school, he could be found at the Iron Horseman Clubhouse doing homework at the bar or learning to work on engines in the garage. Jack Hammer Davidson watched the transformation with quiet pride. In Ethan, he saw not only his friend's son, but a chance to heal old wounds, to make right what had gone wrong in his own life. A second chance not many men received. It was a Tuesday evening when their newfound peace faced its first real test. Ethan was elbow deep in the carburetor of a 92 Softail under Diesel's watchful instruction when Bear burst into the garage. Jack, he called, his usually calm voice tight with urgency. You need to see this. Jack followed Bear into the clubhouse office where the television was tuned to the local news. A reporter stood outside the Riverdale courthouse. William Prescott, prominent local attorney, has been appointed special prosecutor in the state's ongoing investigation into motorcycle gang activity. Prescott has vowed to, quote, clean up our streets and protect our children from these dangerous influences. The camera cut to William Prescott, impeccable in a tailored suit, speaking at a podium. These organizations hide behind charity work and community service, but make no mistake, they operate outside the law. My office will investigate their activities thoroughly, including their recent inappropriate interactions with minors in our public schools. Jack's jaw tightened. William hadn't attended a second veteran support group meeting. Apparently, he'd chosen a different path. He's coming after us, Bear said quietly. Because we embarrassed him, Hawk added from the doorway, and because we know about his drinking. Jack switched off the television. Get the word out. Full meeting tonight, 9 o'clock. Mandatory attendance. What about the kid? Diesel asked, nodding toward the garage where Ethan was still working, blissfully unaware of the storm gathering. Sarah picks him up at 6, let him finish his lesson, no need to worry him yet. But as the Iron Horsemen would soon discover, they weren't the only ones with worries. 45 miles away, in the sterile visiting room of Oakwood State Penitentiary, Marcus Reynolds sat across from a man in an expensive suit. The bruise on Marcus's face was turning yellow around the edges, a souvenir from his first week behind bars. You understand what we need, the man said, sliding a manila folder across the table. Testimony, evidence, names, anything you can give us on the Iron Horsemen. Marcus laughed bitterly. They're not what you think. They're not dealing. They're not running guns or women. The man's smile never reached his eyes. Everyone has secrets, Mr. Reynolds, even Boy Scouts. He tapped the folder. You've been charged with domestic violence, assault on a minor, and violation of your previous parole. That's 15 years minimum. Marcus swallowed hard. And if I help, reduce charges, probation instead of prison time. The man leaned forward. And a chance to settle the score with the men who humiliated you. Marcus stared at the folder, thinking of how the Iron Horsemen had forced him out, taken away the comfortable life he'd built with Sarah, how he'd been sleeping in his truck for weeks before getting arrested for a bar fight. What do you need me to do? The man's smile widened. Just tell us what you saw in that clubhouse. Drugs, weapons. You were living with the Miller boy. Did those bikers ever take him anywhere inappropriate? Were they ever alone with him? You want me to lie about them? I want you to remember details that might have slipped your mind. The man stood. Think about it, Mr. Reynolds. 15 years is a long time. And I hear the Iron Horsemen have friends in here who won't take kindly to a man who beats women and children. After the man left, Marcus stared at the folder. Inside was a statement already prepared for his signature. A statement describing drug use, weapons, stockpiling, and inappropriate behavior with Ethan. All he had to do was sign. The Iron Horseman clubhouse was packed that night. 32 members filled the main room, the air thick with cigarette smoke and tension. Jack stood at the center, his weathered face grave. William Prescott has made his move, he began. He's using his new position as special prosecutor to come after us, and he's using Ethan as an excuse. A rumble of angry voices filled the room. We knew this was coming, Diesel said. Man's got a bruised ego. It's more than that, Bear added. He's running for state senate next year. This is his platform. Jack raised a hand for quiet. I've spoken with our lawyer. We haven't done anything illegal, but that doesn't mean they can't make our lives difficult. Raids, harassment, they'll look for any excuse. So what do we do? Ghost asked. Back off from the kid. The question hung in the air. It would be the simplest solution. Distance themselves from Ethan at least until the scrutiny died down. It was the smart play. No, Jack said firmly. We made a promise to James. We made a promise to Ethan. We don't back down because some politician wants to score points. A chorus of approval met his words. But, Jack continued, we need to be smart about this. No trouble. Not even a parking ticket. Everything by the book. And we accelerate the youth program. Make it official public with proper paperwork and oversight. You want to legitimize what we're doing with Ethan, Hawk said. Exactly. If we're running a registered mentorship program with proper parental consent, they can't touch us for being with the kids. We've been talking about restarting James's program for years. Now we do it. The plan was sound, but Ghost, ever the cautious one, raised the question they'd all been considering. What if Prescott doesn't play fair? Jack's expression hardened. Then we deal with that when it comes. For now, we protect the kid and we protect the club. The rest will sort itself out. As the meeting broke up, Jack pulled Diesel and Bear aside. I want you two to reach out to Tyler, see how things are at home. If William is on the warpath, I want to make sure the boy isn't catching the fallout. You think William would hurt his own son, Bear asked. Not physically, but a man consumed by revenge and ambition might not notice the damage he's causing. Jack looked toward the photos on the wall faces of members long gone. A son shouldn't have to pay for his father's mistakes. Tyler Prescott sat in the back of his father's BMW watching raindrops race down the window. The sleek car purred through Riverdale's streets, taking him to yet another appointment with Dr. Rosenbaum, the therapist his father had insisted on after learning about the bullying incidents at school. Remember what we discussed? William said from the driver's seat, his eyes meeting Tyler's in the rearview mirror. Dr. Rosenbaum is here to help you process your feelings about your mother's passing, nothing else. Tyler nodded automatically. He'd heard the instructions before. Don't mention the Iron Horseman. Don't talk about the times Dad was too drunk to pick him up from school. Don't discuss the nighttime shouting matches with ghosts that weren't there. I know, Dad. And after this, we have the dinner with Judge Harmon and his wife. Be on your best behavior. This is important for my campaign. Another nod. Another night of being trotted out like a show pony wearing uncomfortable clothes, answering the same questions about school and sports and his future, pretending they were the perfect family, still healing from tragedy but soldiering bravely on. As they stopped at a red light, Tyler saw 2 motorcycles pull up beside them. Not Iron Horsemen, just ordinary riders. But it made him think of Ethan of the clubhouse, of the strange sense of belonging he'd felt there for the brief time he'd been welcome, before his father had forbidden him from going back. Those men are criminals, William had said. They're using you and Ethan to legitimize their operation. I will not have my son involved with them. The light changed. The motorcycles roared ahead. Tyler slumped lower in his seat. Sit up straight, his father said automatically. Prescott's don't slouch. Tyler obeyed, as he always did, but his mind was elsewhere back at the Iron Horseman clubhouse where, for a few hours, he'd been just Tyler, not William Prescott's son, not the kid whose mother died, not the boy with expectations weighing on his shoulders like stones. Just a kid learning to sand wood with another kid who should have hated him but chose forgiveness instead. The car pulled up to Dr. Rosenbaum's office. I'll pick you up in an hour, William said. Remember what we discussed. Tyler nodded again and climbed out into the rain, wondering if Ethan was at the clubhouse right now and what they might be building today. Easy, easy, Diesel coached as Ethan carefully turned the wrench on the Softail's oil filter. You don't want to strip the threads. That's it. Now back it off slowly. Ethan's tongue poked out between his teeth as he concentrated, his small hands working carefully on the massive motorcycle. Oil dripped into the pan below, black and viscous. Good job, kid, Diesel said as the filter came free. You're a natural, just like your old man. Pride swelled in Ethan's chest. He'd been coming to the clubhouse every day after school for nearly 3 months now, and the lessons were about more than just motorcycles. He was learning patience, precision, the satisfaction of fixing something broken, and the confidence that came from acquiring real skills. The garage door rolled open, letting in a blast of cool spring air. Jack walked in, followed by Sarah, who was not expected for another hour. Ethan's smile faded when he saw his mother's face. Mom, what's wrong? Sarah looked at Jack, who nodded encouragingly. Ethan, honey, we need to talk, she began. Some people are saying bad things about the Iron Horsemen, about them spending time with you. Ethan's eyes widened. What people? What are they saying? Mr. Prescott, Tyler's dad, is working with the police now. He's saying the club is a bad influence, that they shouldn't be around children. That's stupid, Ethan protested. They've helped me. They've helped us. I know, honey. Sarah knelt to his level. I know they have. But Mr. Prescott is an important man, and people listen to him. Jack stepped forward. Ethan, your mom and I have been talking. We're going to make the youth program official, with paperwork and everything. That way no one can say we're doing anything wrong when you're here. But we're not doing anything wrong, Ethan insisted, looking from Jack to his mother. We're just fixing motorcycles and doing homework. Sometimes, Diesel said gently, people see what they want to see, not what's really there. They look at our leather and our bikes, and they make judgments. It's not fair, Ethan said, his voice small. No, Jack agreed. It's not, but we deal with the world as it is, not as we wish it were. That's what men do. Sarah touched Ethan's cheek. Jack thinks it would be best if you didn't come to the clubhouse for a few days, just until the paperwork is filed. No. Ethan's eyes filled with sudden tears. You promised. You said you wouldn't leave like everyone else. The accusation hit Jack like a physical blow. We're not leaving you, kid. We're protecting you. And the second the paperwork goes through, you'll be back here. This is your home, too. You promised? Ethan asked, his voice wavering. I promise. Iron Horsemen keep their word. Always. Ethan looked at his grease-stained hands, then at the motorcycle they'd been working on. Can I at least finish the oil change? Jack smiled, relieved. Absolutely. You started the job, you finish it. That's the rule. As Ethan turned back to the motorcycle, Sarah pulled Jack aside. I'm worried, she whispered. What if Prescott doesn't stop? Jack's eyes were steel. Then he'll learn what happens when you come between a wolf and its cub. The raid came at dawn 3 days later. Police vehicles surrounded the Iron Horseman clubhouse, lights flashing in the dim morning light. Officers with search warrants poured in, tearing through the building with methodical precision. Jack stood in the parking lot watching stone-faced as they went through the club's financial records, membership lists, and private correspondence. Bear and Diesel flanked him, equally impassive. Detective Rodriguez, a reasonable man Jack had known for years, approached with an apologetic expression. "This isn't my call, Jack. Orders from above."
William Prescott's office, you mean?
Rodriguez didn't confirm or deny it. They're looking for evidence of criminal enterprise, drugs, illegal weapons, financial fraud. They won't find any.
I know. Rodriguez lowered his voice. But they're also looking for evidence related to the Miller boy. Photos, videos, anything inappropriate.
Jack's face darkened. They think we're what pedophiles. I'm just telling you what they're looking for. Watch yourself, Jack. Prescott wants to make an example of you. After 4 hours, the police left empty-handed. But the damage was done. News vans had captured footage of the raid. By noon, it was all over local television. Motorcycle gang under investigation for corruption and child endangerment. The Iron Horsemen gathered in the now disheveled clubhouse, rage simmering beneath stoic expressions. "This was just the first move," Jack said. "Prescott knows we're clean, but he's hoping to smear us in the court of public opinion, make it impossible for us to work with the kids." "Can he do that?" asked a younger member. "He can try," Jack answered. "But we've faced worse than one angry lawyer."
His phone buzzed. A text from Sarah. "Ethan saw the news. He's upset. Can you call him?"
Jack stepped outside to make the call. Ethan answered on the first ring. "They're lying about you," the boy said immediately, his voice tight with anger. "It's not fair."
"No, it's not," Jack agreed. "But we'll get through this."
"Why is Tyler's dad doing this? Is it because of me?" "No, kid, it's because of me. William and I have history, old grudges that should have stayed buried."
There was a pause. "Tyler's not at school today. I tried texting him, but he's not answering."
Jack frowned. That didn't sound good. "I'll have Hawk check on him. Don't worry." "When can I come back to the clubhouse?" "Soon. Our lawyer filed the youth program paperwork yesterday. Once it's approved, we're legitimate. Not even William Prescott can stop it then."
"Promise."
Iron Horsemen keep their word. Always. After ending the call, Jack found Hawk. "I need you to check on the Prescott kid. Something's not right." Tyler sat on the edge of his bed, listening to the sounds of breaking glass from downstairs. His father had been drinking steadily since coming home from the office. It had been happening more frequently since the announcement of his special prosecutor position. The pressure, the scrutiny, the expectations, William was cracking beneath the weight of it all. Tyler's phone lit up with another text from Ethan. "You okay not at school again?" He wanted to respond, but his father had forbidden any contact with Ethan Miller or anyone associated with the Iron Horsemen. His phone was checked nightly. He couldn't risk it. More glass shattered downstairs, followed by a string of curses. Tyler flinched, drawing his knees up to his chest. He'd learned to gauge his father's moods by the sounds. Breaking things meant anger, but not necessarily at Tyler. Slamming doors was worse. That meant he was looking for someone to blame.
Tonight was a breaking things night, for now. His mind drifted to the Iron Horseman clubhouse, to Jack's steady voice and Bear's gentle instructions, to Ethan's unexpected friendship. He'd felt safe there, seen, like someone actually cared what he thought or felt. The sound of heavy footsteps on the stairs jolted him back to reality. His bedroom door flew open. William stood there, tie askew, eyes bloodshot. "Your school called again," he slurred. "Third absence this week." Tyler swallowed. "I wasn't feeling well." "Bullshit. You're avoiding those classmates of yours, the ones asking about your father, the drunk." So he knew about the rumors. Of course he did. Riverdale was a small town and news traveled fast. "I'm handling it," Tyler said quietly. William laughed, a harsh sound with no humor. "Handling it like I handled it, hiding in your room while the world falls apart around you." "Dad, you're drunk. You should lie down." "Don't tell me what to do," William roared, suddenly furious. "I'm trying to build something here, a future, a legacy, and those bikers are destroying it all." Tyler felt a surge of courage born of desperation. "The Iron Horsemen aren't the problem. They're helping Ethan. They tried to help us." The moment the words left his mouth, he knew he'd made a mistake. William's face contorted. "Help us, those criminals. Is that where you were when you skipped school with them?" "No, don't lie to me." William grabbed Tyler's phone from the nightstand. "Let's see who you've been talking to." "Dad, please." But William was already scrolling through the messages, his expression darkening with each swipe. "Ethan Miller, Jack Davidson. What is this? Missed the clubhouse. Hope to come back soon." He looked up, betrayal and rage warring in his eyes. "You've been going behind my back. To them." "They were nice to me," Tyler whispered. "They listened."
"They used you to get to me."
William hurled the phone against the wall where it shattered. They don't care about you. No one does. It's just you and me. It's always been just you and me since your mother left us. The slip was telling. In William's alcohol-fogged mind, his wife hadn't died. She'd abandoned them just like everyone else in his life had abandoned him. Dad, Tyler said cautiously, Mom didn't leave us. She died. Cancer, remember. Something flickered in William's eyes. Confusion, pain. For a moment, he seemed to see through the haze. Then it closed over again. Pack a bag, he ordered. We're going to your grandmother's house in Portland. Tonight, get away from this town and these people poisoning your mind. But school, now Tyler. After his father stormed out, Tyler sat frozen on his bed. Portland was 300 miles away from his friends, his school, the Iron Horseman, away from the only place he'd felt like he belonged since his mother died. He knew what he had to do. Hawk was good at surveillance. His lean frame and nondescript appearance made him easy to overlook a talent he'd cultivated over years spent on the streets. He'd been watching the Prescott house for 2 hours when he saw Tyler slip out a side window and hurry down the street, a backpack clutched to his chest. The boy was running away. Hawk followed at a distance, tracking Tyler through Riverdale's quiet streets. The kid moved with purpose, not like someone fleeing randomly. He had a destination in mind. When Tyler turned down the road leading to the Iron Horseman clubhouse, Hawk smiled grimly. The boy was smarter than his father. He pulled out his phone and called Jack. The Prescott kid is headed your way. Looks like he's running from something. Bring him in quiet, Jack replied. No need to advertise his location. Hawk caught up to Tyler a block from the clubhouse. Little late for a walk, isn't it? Tyler startled, then relaxed when he recognized the biker. I need to talk to Jack. I know, he's waiting. Inside the clubhouse, Tyler's story poured out in a rush. William's drinking, the shattered phone, the plans to leave town tonight. He's getting worse. Tyler finished, his voice breaking. Ever since he took that special prosecutor job, it's like he's obsessed with destroying the Iron Horseman, with destroying you. Jack's face remained calm, but his eyes betrayed his concern. Did he hurt you, son? Tyler shook his head. Not physically, but he said things about my mom. It's like he doesn't remember she died, like he thinks she left us. Bear, who'd lost his own parents young, placed a gentle hand on Tyler's shoulder. Grief does strange things to a man's mind, especially when it's mixed with alcohol. He wants to take me to Portland tonight. Don't want to go. I can't leave. Tyler hesitated, then finished. I can't leave Ethan. He's the only real friend I've got. The Iron Horsemen exchanged looks. They understood loyalty. It was the foundation of their brotherhood. We need to call your father, Jack said finally. Let him know you're safe. No. Tyler's eyes widened in panic. He'll come get me. He'll be furious. He's your father, Tyler. Whatever his faults, he loves you. He loves the idea of me, the perfect son who makes him look good. He doesn't see me. Not really. Jack sighed. The boy's pain was real, but so were the legal ramifications of harboring a runaway minor, especially given William's position and vendetta against the club. We'll call Sarah, Diesel suggested. She's a neutral party. Tyler can stay with her and Ethan tonight, and we can sort this out in the morning when William is sober. Tyler looked up hopefully. You won't make me go back tonight. No, Jack said firmly. Not tonight. As Bear took Tyler to the kitchen for a hot meal, Jack pulled Diesel aside. This complicates things. William will see this as kidnapping. The kid came to us, Diesel protested. You think that matters? William Prescott is looking for any excuse to shut us down. His son running to us is perfect ammunition. Diesel's weathered face creased with concern. What do? We protect the boy tonight. Tomorrow we deal with William. And we pray this doesn't blow up in our faces. Sarah's apartment was small but warm and welcoming. When she opened the door to find Jack with a red-eyed Tyler Prescott, she didn't hesitate. Come in, she said, ushering them inside. Ethan's in his room. He'll be thrilled to see you. The reunion between the boys was awkward at first, then quickly warmed as Tyler explained why he'd been avoiding Ethan at school. My dad checks my phone. He made me promise not to talk to you. That sucks, Ethan said, with the straightforward empathy of youth. My mom made lasagna. Are you hungry? As the boys ate in the kitchen, Jack explained the situation to Sarah in low tones. William Prescott is on a crusade, he concluded, and his son is caught in the crossfire. Sarah's nursing experience had shown her many forms of suffering. That poor boy. Does he need to see a doctor? Any signs of physical abuse? No, but the emotional damage is real. William is drowning his grief in alcohol and ambition. Sarah nodded thoughtfully. Sometimes the wounds we can't see are the deepest. William will come looking for him tomorrow, possibly with police. Let him.
Sarah's jaw set with determination. I'll tell them exactly what I've seen as a medical professional. A distressed minor sought sanctuary. I provided it. There's no crime in that. Jack smiled a rare, full smile that transformed his weathered face. You're something else, Sarah Miller. She blushed slightly. I've learned a few things these past months. About standing up, about not looking away. From the Iron Horseman. From my son. She glanced toward the kitchen where the boys were talking animatedly. Ethan found his courage when he walked into your clubhouse. It inspired me to find mine. Jack's hand covered hers on the table, warm and calloused. For a moment they sat in comfortable silence, united in their concern for the boys in the next room. The moment was broken by a harsh pounding on the door. Police open up. Jack and Sarah exchanged alarmed looks. William had moved faster than anticipated. Take the boys to Ethan's room, Jack whispered. I'll handle this. Sarah nodded and quietly ushered the startled boys down the hallway. Jack opened the door to find two uniformed officers and William Prescott, whose bloodshot eyes widened at the sight of the Iron Horseman president. What are you doing here? William demanded. I could ask you the same thing, Jack replied calmly. I'm looking for my son. The school called, said he was seen with Ethan Miller. When I got home, he was gone. One of the officers stepped forward. Sir, we have reason to believe the minor Tyler Prescott may be in this residence. We need to speak with the homeowner. I'm the homeowner, Sarah said, returning from the hallway. Sarah Miller, registered nurse at Memorial Hospital. How can I help you? Ms. Miller, is Tyler Prescott here? The officer asked. Before she could answer, William pushed forward. They've taken my son. These bikers. It's kidnapping. Mr. Prescott, please stay calm, the officer cautioned. I am perfectly calm, William shouted, his voice slurring slightly. I want my son now. The second officer moved closer, his expression concerned. Sir, have you been drinking tonight? William's face flushed. That's irrelevant. These people have my son. Tyler came here on his own, Sarah stated firmly. He was distressed and seeking help. She's lying. They turned him against me. The first officer raised a hand. Ms. Miller, we need to speak with Tyler. Of course, Sarah agreed. But I should inform you that in my professional capacity I've observed signs consistent with emotional distress in the minor. As a mandated reporter, I'd be obligated to contact Child Protective Services if I believed he was returning to an unsafe environment. It was a masterful move. Sarah had established her professional credentials and raised the specter of CPS involvement, all while appearing completely cooperative. William's face drained of color. This is absurd. I'm a respected attorney, a special prosecutor, and apparently intoxicated while attempting to retrieve your minor son, Sarah added calmly. The officers exchanged uncomfortable looks. This had just become far more complicated than a simple runaway case. I'd like to speak with Tyler, the first officer said. Alone. Sarah nodded. He's in my son's room, first door on the left. As the officer disappeared down the hallway, William glared at Jack with naked hatred. This isn't over. You've turned my own son against me. You did that yourself, Jack replied quietly. With every bottle, with every missed dinner, with every time you chose your grief and your ambition over that boy. You don't know anything about me or my son. I know what it's like to let a child down. The difference is I learned from my mistakes. The officer returned with Tyler, whose face was set in determined lines despite his obvious fear. Tyler, William began, his tone softening. It's time to come home. We can talk about this. Tyler moved closer to Jack. I'm not going with you tonight. Not when you're like this. Like what? I'm your father. The first officer cleared his throat. Mr. Prescott, based on my conversation with your son and my observations of your current state, I believe it would be best if Tyler remained here tonight. What? William's outrage was palpable. Under what authority? Temporary emergency placement, the officer replied. Ms. Miller is a licensed healthcare professional who has offered safe accommodation. Tomorrow, when you're rested, we can revisit the situation. William's hands clenched into fists. This is Davidson's doing. All of it. He turned to Jack, venom in his voice. Enjoy your victory tonight. Tomorrow I'll have your precious clubhouse condemned and every one of your members investigated. Mr. Prescott, the second officer said firmly. That's enough. We'll escort you home now. As the police led a still protesting William away, Tyler's shoulders sagged with relief. Thank you, he whispered to Jack, for believing me. Jack squeezed the boy's shoulder. Family isn't always blood, son. Sometimes it's the people who stand with you when the rest of the world walks away. After the police left, Sarah made up the couch for Tyler. The boys stayed up late, talking in hushed voices in Ethan's room, finding comfort in shared experience and newfound friendship. Jack prepared to leave, but Sarah stopped him at the door.
You should stay, she said softly, in case William comes back. The couch is spoken for, but I have a recliner that's surprisingly comfortable. Jack hesitated, aware of boundaries and appearances. Are you sure? I'm sure. Her hand found his warm and certain. I'd feel safer with you here. Something passed between them in that moment. Understanding. Trust. Perhaps the beginnings of something more. Then I'll stay, Jack said simply. Outside, the spring rain began again, drumming gently on the roof. Inside, four souls found temporary sanctuary from the storms in their lives, bound together by circumstance and choice. The small apartment had become a haven not just for Ethan, but for all of them. Tomorrow would bring new battles, William Prescott's vendetta, the legal complications of Tyler's situation, the uncertain future of the Iron Horseman's youth program. But tonight, in this moment, there was peace, there was connection. There was the promise of something stronger than hatred or grief or loneliness. Brotherhood. Dawn found Jack standing at Sarah's kitchen window, watching the sun rise over Riverdale. The recliner had indeed been comfortable, but sleep had eluded him. Too many thoughts, too many concerns about what William Prescott might do next. Coffee? Sarah appeared beside him, offering a steaming mug. Thanks. He accepted it gratefully. Boys still sleeping? She nodded. Like rocks. It was nearly 2 before they stopped talking. Tyler needed that, someone who understands. So did Ethan. Sarah leaned against the counter. What happens now, Jack? He sipped the coffee, gathering his thoughts. William won't let this go. His pride won't allow it. But we've bought some time. If we can get Tyler to talk to Child Protective Services about his father's drinking, about the emotional abuse. You'd do that, use his own son against him. Jack's eyes met hers. To protect Tyler, yes. To protect the club, yes. William fired the first shot when he came after us, when he used Ethan as a weapon in his vendetta. Sarah studied him. You and William, there's history there, isn't there, beyond what happened at the school? Jack nodded slowly. A long time ago, before you and Ethan came to Riverdale. Tell me. Jack stared into his coffee cup as if the answers lurked in its depths. William's firm represented the developer who wanted to buy the land where our clubhouse stands. Prime real estate. When we refused to sell, things got ugly. Threats, vandalism. One night our previous clubhouse mysteriously caught fire. You think William was involved? I know he was, but we couldn't prove it. Jack's voice hardened. We rebuilt. We stayed. It was a point of pride. William never forgot that defeat. And now he's using his position to try again. With the added motivation of what happened with Tyler, we embarrassed him, exposed his drinking. In his mind, we're turning his son against him. Sarah's hand touched his arm. So it's personal. It's always been personal. That's what makes him dangerous. Jack set down his mug. I should call the clubhouse, let them know what's happening. As he reached for his phone, it rang. Diesel's name flashed on the screen. Jack. Diesel's voice was tight with urgency. We've got trouble. The police are back with social services. What do they want? They're asking about Ethan, something about an anonymous report of an unsafe environment. They're saying you and the club have been inappropriate with him. Jack's blood ran cold. William had made his next move, and it was worse than anything Jack had anticipated. They're going after Ethan, he told Sarah, covering the phone. William's accused us of abuse. Sarah's face paled. That's insane. You've done nothing but help him. Truth doesn't matter to William, only winning. Jack returned to the phone. Diesel, tell them nothing. Our lawyer's on the way. I'm bringing Sarah and Ethan there now. He ended the call, his expression grim. Get Ethan dressed. We need to move. What about Tyler? Jack considered for a moment. He comes too. We can't leave him alone, and having him there might actually help. He can tell them firsthand what really happens at the clubhouse. Sarah hurried to wake the boys as Jack made another call, this one to the Iron Horseman's lawyer. By the time she returned with 2 sleepy but alarmed boys, Jack had a plan. Listen carefully, he told them all. William Prescott has accused the Iron Horseman of inappropriate behavior with Ethan. What? Ethan's face flushed with anger. That's a lie. We know that, but social services has to investigate any accusation. They're at the clubhouse now. We're going there to set the record straight. Tyler looked stricken. My father did this because of me. This isn't your fault, Jack said firmly. Your father has been looking for a way to hurt us. He's just using whatever ammunition he can find. I hate him, Tyler whispered. No, you don't, Jack replied, his voice gentle but firm. He's lost son, drowning in his own pain. What he's doing is wrong, but hating him won't help. Sarah squeezed Tyler's shoulder. Jack's right. Hate is a poison that hurts you more than the person you hate. Tyler nodded, though his expression remained troubled.
We need to go, Jack urged. Our lawyer will meet us at the clubhouse. As they prepared to leave, Sarah pulled Jack aside. What if they try to take Ethan to place him in foster care during the investigation? They won't, Jack promised. Not while I'm breathing. The determination in his voice was absolute. Sarah realized in that moment that Jack Davidson would move heaven and earth to protect her son. The thought was both terrifying and comforting. Let's go, she said, grabbing her purse. Together. Outside, the morning sun cast long shadows across Riverdale. A new day had begun, and with it a battle for truth, for family, for the very meaning of brotherhood. It was a battle the Iron Horsemen intended to win. Brotherhood's Promise. Part 3. Morning sunlight glinted off the chrome of Jack's Harley as they approached the Iron Horseman clubhouse. Sarah drove behind in her aging Honda, the boys in the back seat. Jack had insisted on riding ahead, partly to alert the others, partly to assess the situation before the boys arrived. The scene that greeted him tightened his jaw. 3 police cruisers and an unmarked sedan with government plates blocked the entrance. A small crowd had gathered across the street, no doubt drawn by the morning news reports. Local media vans idled nearby, cameras trained on the clubhouse door. Jack parked and dismounted in one fluid motion, his weathered face impassive despite the storm raging inside him. Diesel met him at the entrance, voice low with urgency. They've been here 30 minutes. Our lawyer just arrived. They're interviewing everyone separately. What about the paperwork for the youth program? Filed but not approved. They're saying without official authorization, any activities with minors were unlicensed and potentially illegal. Jack's eyes narrowed. That's reaching. It's William Prescott. He'll reach as far as he needs to. Inside, the clubhouse atmosphere was tense. Bear stood like a sentinel near the bar, arms crossed over his massive chest. Ghost and Hawk whispered in the corner, falling silent as Jack entered. At a table in the center sat a middle-aged woman in a severe suit, files spread before her. Beside her, a younger man took notes on a laptop. Iron Horseman members lined the walls, their usual boisterous energy replaced by wary stillness. They parted as Jack approached, nodding respectfully to their president. The woman looked up. Mr. Davidson, I'm Eleanor Watts, Department of Child Services. We need to speak with you regarding allegations concerning your relationship with the minor Ethan Miller. Ms. Watts, Jack's voice betrayed none of the anger simmering beneath. I understand you're doing your job, but these allegations are false, completely fabricated by a man with a personal vendetta against this club. That's for our investigation to determine. She gestured to a chair. Please sit. Sarah and Ethan Miller will need to be interviewed separately as well. They're on their way. Jack remained standing, along with Tyler Prescott, who can provide first-hand testimony about what actually happens in this clubhouse. Eleanor's eyebrows rose. William Prescott's son. He's with Sarah Miller. He came to us last night, ran away from home. His father was drunk, violent, threatening to take him out of state. The police are aware. They made a temporary emergency placement with Sarah, who is a licensed healthcare professional. For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Eleanor's professional mask. This clearly wasn't in her briefing. Jack continued pressing the advantage. Tyler can tell you exactly what we do with the kids here. Teach them mechanical skills, carpentry, the value of hard work, and brotherhood, the same things we taught his father James before he went to Iraq and sacrificed his life for this country. The clubhouse door opened. Sarah entered with Ethan and Tyler, all 3 looking tense but determined. Eleanor Watts watched them with narrowed eyes, already recalculating her approach. Ms. Miller, she stood extending a hand. Eleanor Watts, DCS. I believe you've been informed of the allegations. Yes. Sarah's voice was steady, her nursing professionalism evident. And they're absurd. The Iron Horsemen have been nothing but supportive of my son. They've provided him with positive male role models after his father's death and helped remove an actually abusive man from our lives. Nevertheless, we have a report from William Prescott, Sarah interrupted, who is currently engaged in a personal and professional vendetta against the club, who was escorted from my home by police last night because he was too intoxicated to safely take custody of his own son. Eleanor turned her attention to the boys. Ethan, Tyler, I'd like to speak with each of you privately. Ethan stepped forward, chin raised in an unconscious echo of Jack's stance. They didn't do anything wrong. They helped me. They taught me things, made me feel like I mattered. I understand, but it's true, Tyler added. My dad is lying. He's been drinking since Mom died. He doesn't want me around the Iron Horsemen because they know the truth about him. Eleanor looked between the boys, her clinical detachment wavering. These weren't the frightened, confused children she'd expected to find. They were fierce, protective, united in their defense of the very men they were supposedly being protected from. Perhaps we should, she began, but was interrupted by commotion at the door. William Prescott burst in, flanked by 2 officers and a man in an expensive suit. His face was haggard, eyes bloodshot but alert with fury. He'd showered and changed into a fresh suit but couldn't hide the aftermath of his drinking binge. "There he is," he pointed at Tyler. "My son, being held against his will." Tyler stepped closer to Ethan, the boy's shoulders touching in silent solidarity. "Mr. Prescott," Eleanor said firmly, "this is a closed investigation." "I instigated this investigation," William snapped, "as special prosecutor and as a father concerned for these children's welfare." The man beside him stepped forward, extending a business card to Eleanor. "Richard Vance, District Attorney's Office. We have evidence relevant to your investigation. A sworn statement from Marcus Reynolds, who lived with the Miller family and witnessed inappropriate interactions between club members and the minor." Sarah's face went white. "Marcus, he's a violent alcoholic who was thrown out of my home for abusing my son." Jack moved to Sarah's side, steady and calm despite the chaos. "Marcus is currently incarcerated for parole violation after a bar fight. What did you offer him in exchange for this statement?" Richard Vance's smile was thin. His cooperation has been noted favorably by the court. "So he's lying to reduce his sentence," Bear rumbled from across the room. William's eyes locked on Jack. "You've turned my son against me, poisoned him with your influence." "Dad," Tyler said quietly, "stop this." "You're coming home with me. Now." William reached for his son's arm. Tyler stepped back. "No, not until you get help. Not until you stop drinking and remember that Mom died. She didn't leave us." William froze, something broken and vulnerable flashing across his face. For a moment, the room held its breath. "Mrs. Watts," the Iron Horseman's lawyer spoke up, entering from the back office. "I've just received confirmation from the state licensing board. The Iron Horseman Youth Mentorship Program has been officially approved, retroactive to the date of filing." He handed her a document with official seals. "All activities with minors have been fully authorized, supervised, and documented. I have signed consent forms from Sarah Miller, Mr. Davidson, and all members working with youth have passed background checks." Eleanor studied the paperwork, her professional demeanor regaining its footing. "This appears to be in order. However, the allegations of inappropriate behavior are based solely on the testimony of a convicted abuser looking to reduce his sentence," the lawyer finished. "Without corroborating evidence, that's insufficient grounds to separate a child from his mother or ban him from a licensed youth program." "The boy stays with us," William interjected, desperation edging his voice. Eleanor Watts had seen enough family dynamics in her career to recognize what was happening. "Mr. Prescott, I'll need to interview Tyler privately regarding his home situation. This is outrageous. I'm an officer of the court. And this is a child welfare matter," Eleanor replied calmly. "Your position doesn't exempt you from investigation when allegations of neglect arise." William turned to the district attorney. "Richard, tell her who I am." Richard Vance looked uncomfortable. This public meltdown wasn't part of the plan. "William, perhaps we should continue this conversation elsewhere." "No, I want my son now." Jack stepped forward, his voice low but caring. "William, you're embarrassing yourself. In front of your son, in front of everyone. This isn't about the Iron Horseman anymore. It's about Tyler." Something in Jack's tone broke through William's rage. He looked at his son, really looked at him perhaps for the first time in months. The fear in Tyler's eyes, the way he leaned away closer to Ethan and Jack, the public spectacle he was creating. William's shoulders slumped. The fight drained from him, leaving only a tired man clinging to the wreckage of his life. "Fine," he whispered. "Interview him. Interview everyone. But when you find nothing because there is nothing to find, this vendetta against me ends." "Against you?" Sarah couldn't contain her disbelief. "This was never about you, Mr. Prescott. It was about the well-being of 2 boys who needed help. Help that the Iron Horseman provided when no one else would." The clarity of her statement hung in the air, impossible to dispute. Eleanor Watts closed her file. "I'll conduct interviews with both boys separately. I'll also need statements from Ms. Miller, Mr. Davidson, and other club members who've interacted with the minors. Until my investigation is complete, both boys remain in Ms. Miller's custody." William opened his mouth to protest, but Richard placed a warning hand on his shoulder. "Accept the temporary arrangement, William. We'll address this through proper channels." As William was led outside by his colleague, he paused at the door, looking back at his son. The mask of righteous prosecutor had fallen away, revealing a broken father desperate to reconnect with the only family he had left. "Tyler," he said, voice cracking, I'm sorry." The simple words, perhaps the first sincere ones he'd spoken in months, landed like stones in still water. Tyler didn't respond, but something shifted in his expression, a crack in his armor of anger, the possibility, however faint, of eventual forgiveness. After William left, Eleanor set up in the office to begin interviews. The crowd outside had grown news of the confrontation spreading through Riverdale's gossip channels. Jack stood at the window, watching reporters speculate into cameras, feeling the weight of 30 years of building this brotherhood pressed down on his shoulders. Bear approached his massive frame, blocking out the morning light. "Whatever happens, we're with you, Jack. All the way." Jack nodded, throat too tight for words. This was what brotherhood meant, standing together especially when the storm was fiercest. As Eleanor interviewed Ethan in the office, Jack found Sarah in the kitchen making coffee with shaking hands. "You were magnificent out there," he said quietly. She looked up, eyes bright with unshed tears. "I was terrified, but I kept thinking about Ethan, about how you never backed down when he needed you. I couldn't do any less." Jack took the coffee pot from her trembling grasp and set it aside. Without words, he opened his arms. Sarah stepped into them, her head finding the hollow of his shoulder as if made to rest there. They stood in silence, drawing strength from each other as the world outside clamored for their destruction. "We'll get through this," Jack murmured into her hair. "All of us. Together." Sarah looked up, her eyes meeting his. "Promise?" Iron horsemen keep their word always. In that quiet moment, surrounded by chaos and uncertainty, something blossomed between them. Not just attraction or mutual concern, but something deeper, a foundation being laid stone by careful stone for a future neither had dared imagine until now. The kitchen door swung open. They stepped apart as Diesel entered, his weathered face grim. "They found Marcus," he said without preamble, "dead in his cell, apparent suicide." Jack's blood ran cold. "When?" "This morning, right after he gave his statement." The implications hung in the air. Marcus, the key witness against the Iron Horseman, conveniently silenced after serving his purpose. "William wouldn't," Sarah began, then stopped, uncertainty clouding her eyes. "Not directly," Jack said, "but he has connections. People who might make problems disappear." Diesel nodded. "Our lawyers demanding the investigation be dropped since the sole witness can't be cross-examined." "Will it work?" "Depends on how badly William wants to save face. If Marcus was lying, the case falls apart. But if William pushes forward without evidence, he looks like he's pursuing a personal vendetta," Jack finished, "using his office to harass private citizens." "Exactly, career suicide, especially with the state senate race coming up." The three fell silent, processing the implications. William Prescott had backed himself into a corner. His options were narrowing by the hour. The kitchen door opened again. Eleanor Watts entered, her professional composure slightly frayed after hours of interviews. "Mr. Davidson, I've spoken with both boys, Sarah, and several of your members. I've also been informed about Marcus Reynolds." Jack waited, face impassive. "Based on my interviews and the documentation provided, I see no evidence of inappropriate behavior by the Iron Horseman toward either minor. The youth program is properly licensed. Both boys speak highly of their experiences here." Relief washed through Jack, though he kept his expression neutral. "However," Eleanor continued, "I do have concerns about Tyler's home situation. William Prescott's behavior raises red flags for neglect and emotional abuse. Tyler reports regular drinking, verbal outbursts, and extended absences." "What happens now?" Sarah asked. "Typically, we'd recommend family counseling and monitoring. In severe cases, temporary placement with relatives or foster care." Eleanor's professional mask slipped, revealing genuine concern. "But given Mr. Prescott's position and connections, this is complicated." Jack considered her words carefully. "William needs help, professional help to deal with his grief and alcoholism, and Tyler needs stability." "I agree. Unfortunately, I can't force a man in Mr. Prescott's position to accept help unless he's committed a crime or presents immediate danger." "But you could recommend a voluntary program for Tyler's sake." Eleanor nodded slowly. "I could make that very strong recommendation, yes. Whether he follows it..." Jack straightened, decision made. "I'd like to speak with William, alone." "Jack," Sarah began, concern in her voice. "It's time to end this," Jack said firmly. "For the boys. For all of us." Eleanor hesitated. "Mr. Prescott has returned to his office. Given the hostilities, tell him I'm coming, alone, to talk, not fight." After Eleanor left to make the call, Sarah gripped Jack's arm. "Is this wise? William hates you. He hates what he thinks I represent. He's forgotten who he really is." Jack's eyes held a certainty that calmed her fears. "I knew William before his wife died, before the drinking. He was a good man once. Perhaps he can be again." Diesel leaned against the counter. "And if he can't..." "Then at least I tried, for Tyler's sake, for James's memory." The clubhouse main room had cleared somewhat, members retreating to give space for the interviews. Ethan and Tyler sat at a corner table, heads bent together in conversation that stopped when Jack approached.
Eleanor says we can stay, Ethan said immediately, that we didn't do anything wrong.
Jack ruffled the boy's hair. That's right, kid. You're not getting rid of us that easily. Tyler's expression remained troubled. What about my dad? Jack pulled up a chair sitting at eye level with the boys. I'm going to talk to him. Try to help him see what really matters.
He won't listen, Tyler said, defeat heavy in his voice. He never does anymore.
Sometimes, Jack said carefully, a man needs to hear truth from someone who isn't family, someone who doesn't love him, who has no reason to soften the blow. You're going to tell him off? Ethan asked, a hint of satisfaction in his voice. No, I'm going to remind him who he used to be, before grief twisted him up inside. Jack looked directly at Tyler. Do I have your permission to try? The simple question asking permission from a child whose agency had been ignored for so long visibly moved Tyler. He straightened in his chair, considering seriously. Yes, he finally said, but tell him I miss who he was. When Mom was alive. When he used to laugh. Jack nodded, the responsibility of carrying this message settling heavily on his shoulders. I will. And Tyler, no matter what happens, you've got family here now. Remember that. As Jack stood to leave, Ethan caught his arm. Be careful, please.
Always am, kid.
Outside, the media circus had intensified. Jack ignored the shouted questions as he mounted his Harley, the familiar rumble of the engine centering him for what lay ahead. This confrontation had been brewing for years. Today, one way or another, it would end. William Prescott's law office occupied the top floor of the tallest building in Riverdale. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the town he'd spent decades trying to shape in his image. Today, those windows revealed gathering storm clouds, a perfect match for his darkening mood. The intercom buzzed. Mr. Davidson is here to see you, sir. William stared at the device for a long moment before pressing the button. Send him in. The heavy oak door opened. Jack Davidson entered, leather vest over a clean white t-shirt, jeans, and motorcycle boots. In this environment of polished wood and leather-bound law books, he should have looked out of place. Instead, William was struck by how authentic Jack appeared, how comfortable in his own skin, while William felt like an imposter in his own office. William, Jack nodded, once respectful but not deferential. Jack, William gestured to the chair across from his desk. I assume you're here to gloat? No, Jack remained standing. I'm here about Tyler. William's jaw tightened. My son, my concern, not yours. He came to us, William, scared, running away from his own father. Because you filled his head with... Because you were drunk. Jack's voice remained calm, matter-of-fact. Because you've been drunk more often than sober since Elaine died. Because you're so lost in your own pain that you can't see his. William flinched as if struck. Don't you dare speak her name. Elaine was proud of you once. Jack continued the words, measured but relentless. Proud of the man who fought for justice and who believed in the law as a force for good, who loved his son more than his ambitions. You know nothing about my wife. I know she wouldn't recognize the man you've become. Jack stepped closer to the desk. Neither would you if you could see yourself clearly, using your position to pursue personal vendettas, manipulating a convicted abuser for false testimony, creating a media circus that exposes your son to public scrutiny and embarrassment. William's hand trembled as he reached for the crystal tumbler on his desk. Get out. Tyler gave me a message for you. Jack ignored the dismissal. He misses who you were, when Elaine was alive, when you used to laugh. The words landed like body blows. William's hand froze around the glass knuckles white. He's a good kid, William. Strong, loyal. He defended you even after everything. Said you weren't always like this. I said get out. William surged to his feet, sending the tumbler crashing to the floor. The sharp scent of bourbon filled the air between them. Jack didn't move. You have two choices now. Fight us, destroy your career, lose your son, and drown in that bottle, or accept help, real help, for Tyler's sake if not your own. Help? William's laugh was bitter. From you, the man who's taken everything from me. I haven't taken anything, William. Your grief has, your pride has, your refusal to face what happened to Elaine has. Don't you dare. She died, William, cancer, 3 years ago. She didn't leave you, she didn't choose to go, but she's gone and destroying yourself won't bring her back. Jack's voice softened almost imperceptibly, and it's killing your son to watch. William sank back into his chair, the fight suddenly gone from him. For the first time, Jack saw past the veneer of the successful attorney, the special prosecutor, the grieving widower. He saw simply a broken man drowning in pain too vast to face alone.
What would you have me do? William whispered, voice raw.
Get help, professional help. There's a treatment center in Portland, 30 days inpatient. Deal with the drinking, the grief, all of it. William's head snapped up. And leave Tyler where? With you? With your criminals? With Sarah Miller, licensed nurse, mother, woman who's already helping Tyler and Ethan process their losses in healthy ways. Jack met William's gaze steadily. The Iron Horseman will keep our distance if that's your concern. This isn't about us claiming your son. It's about giving you space to heal so you can be the father he needs. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the distant rumble of thunder. The storm was moving closer. Why, William finally asked. Why help me after everything I've done? Not for you, Jack said honestly. For Tyler. For the memory of his mother who'd want him to have his father back. For the man you were before grief twisted you into someone else. William stared out the window at the gathering clouds. And if I refuse? Then the DCS investigation continues. Tyler's statements about your drinking and emotional abuse become official record. You fight for custody, likely lose, damage your career, and most importantly, lose any chance of rebuilding trust with your son. The stark reality of his position settled over William. Jack could see the calculating legal mind working behind his eyes, searching for loopholes for advantage for escape. Finding none. 30 days, William said finally, and Tyler stays with Sarah Miller, not at your clubhouse. Agreed. And after, when I'm better, Jack chose his words carefully. That's between you and Tyler. But if you're truly better, you'll put his needs first, even if that means accepting that the Iron Horsemen are part of his support system now, part of Ethan's life and therefore part of his. William's face tightened, but he nodded once. I need to speak with Tyler, to explain. He's at the clubhouse. Come by this evening, sober. Say your goodbyes before you leave for Portland. As Jack turned to go, William's voice stopped him at the door. Jack, the Marcus Reynolds situation, I know. Jack didn't turn around. But someone did. You might want to consider the company you've been keeping. With that, he left, closing the door quietly behind him. In the elevator down, Jack finally allowed himself a deep breath. The confrontation had gone better than he dared hope. Whether it would last, whether William would follow through, remained to be seen. But it was a start, a chance for healing for all of them. Outside, the first fat raindrops began to fall. The Iron Horseman clubhouse buzzed with subdued activity as afternoon faded toward evening. The police and child services had departed hours ago. Media vans lingered, but with no new developments, they'd soon abandon their posts for fresher stories. Inside, an impromptu celebration had begun, not boisterous or triumphant, but the quiet satisfaction of men who'd stood together against the storm and emerged intact. Ethan moved among the members like he belonged there, which of course he did. Tyler followed, more hesitantly, still adjusting to the strange new world where adults said what they meant and kept their promises. Sarah watched from beside the bar, nursing a soda, her nurse's eyes missing nothing, the subtle way Bear made sure the boys had snacks. How Ghost, the quietest member, had found Tyler a sweatshirt when he'd mentioned being cold. The respectful distance Diesel maintained while teaching Ethan about a carburetor close enough to guide but never crowding. These men, dismissed by society as thugs and criminals, understood something fundamental about nurturing that many respectable adults had forgotten. Jack appeared at her elbow, his own soda in hand. Penny for your thoughts, she smiled. Just observing, you're all very good with them. We've all been them in one way or another. Lost, searching for belonging, needing someone to see us. Sarah's hand found his fingers intertwining naturally. William's really going to Portland. His assistant is making arrangements now, 30 days inpatient, best facility in the state. And Tyler stays with us. It wasn't a question, but Jack nodded confirmation anyway. If that's still all right with you, it's a lot to take on another boy. Sarah squeezed his hand. My apartment's small, but we'll manage. Besides, Ethan's happier with Tyler around. They're good for each other. Jack's thumb traced circles on her palm, sending warmth up her arm. And you, how are you with all this? Honestly terrified, exhilarated, proud. She looked up at him, eyes clear and direct, grateful to have found people who stand by their word, who show up when it matters. Before Jack could respond, the clubhouse door opened. William Prescott stood in the entrance alone, his suit immaculate, but his eyes red-rimmed and haunted. The room fell silent. Ethan instinctively moved closer to Tyler, protective. Dad. Tyler's voice wavered between hope and wariness. William stepped inside, nodding acknowledgement to Jack, but keeping his focus on his son. Tyler, can we talk privately? The boy hesitated, looking to Jack and Sarah for guidance. Jack kept his expression neutral, letting Tyler make his own choice. Sarah nodded encouragingly. Okay, Tyler said finally, we can use the office. As they disappeared into the back room, Ethan approached Jack and Sarah, worry creasing his young face.
Is Tyler's dad gonna take him away?
Jack rested a hand on the boy's shoulder.
No, Ethan. William's gonna get help. Tyler will stay with you and your mom for a while.
Relief washed over Ethan's face. Good, he needs us. The simple truth of the statement, the easy acceptance of responsibility for another's well-being, made Sarah's heart swell with pride. Her son was growing into someone who understood what truly mattered. In the office, Tyler and William sat across from each other, the desk between them, a physical manifestation of the emotional distance they'd need to bridge.
I'm going away for a while, William began, voice steady despite his red eyes, to a place that helps people like me, people who've been using alcohol to avoid their pain.
Tyler nodded cautiously. Well, Jack told me. In Portland.
Yes, for 30 days, maybe longer if necessary.
William leaned forward, hands clasped on the desk. I want to get better, Tyler. For both of us.
You've said that before after Mom.
Tyler couldn't finish the sentence. I know, and I failed. I thought I could handle it myself. I was wrong. William's professional mask cracked further, raw grief showing through. I miss her every day. It's like a physical pain that never stops. I thought the drinking would dull it, but it only made everything worse. Tyler's eyes glistened.
I miss her too, Dad, but I need you. The real you, not whatever you've become.
I know. William swallowed hard. While I'm gone, you'll stay with Sarah Miller and Ethan. I've already spoken with DCS and arranged it officially.
And the Iron Horsemen. You won't try to keep me away from them anymore.
William's jaw tightened briefly, old habits fighting new resolve. They'll be part of your life through Ethan. I accept that. But Sarah's home will be your primary residence. That's the agreement.
Tyler studied his father, searching for deception or reservation. Finding none, he nodded.
Okay. And after, when you come home? That depends on both of us. On whether I can earn back your trust. On whether we can build something new, just the two of us. William reached across the desk, hand extended. I want to try, son, really try this time. After a long moment, Tyler took his father's hand. Not an embrace, not forgiveness yet, but an acknowledgement. A beginning.
Me too, Dad.
When they emerged from the office, the change in William was subtle but unmistakable. The rigid defensiveness had softened. He nodded to Jack, a gesture of truce, if not quite respect. I leave tomorrow morning, he told Sarah. My housekeeper will bring Tyler's things to your apartment. School records have been updated with your contact information. Sarah nodded. We'll take good care of him, Mr. Prescott. William, please. He turned to Ethan, who watched warily from beside Bear. Ethan, I owe you an apology. What I did, the accusations, they were wrong. I was wrong. Ethan straightened, looking so much like his father that Jack's heart clenched. Tyler's my friend. Friends stick together.
Yes, William agreed softly. They do. He turned to Jack. I've instructed the district attorney to drop all investigations into the Iron Horsemen. The paperwork will be processed tomorrow.
Thank you, Jack said simply. William placed a hand on Tyler's shoulder. I'll call when I can, right when I can't call. Tyler nodded, blinking rapidly to hold back tears. Okay, Dad, get better. I will. William looked around the clubhouse one last time, seeing it perhaps as Tyler did not, as a den of criminals, but as a place of belonging and acceptance. Take care of my boy, he said to everyone and no one in particular. And then he was gone, the door closing quietly behind him. The silence that followed was broken by Bear clearing his throat. Well, the giant man rumbled. Who's hungry? I was thinking of firing up the grill. Just like that, life resumed. Members returned to conversations. Diesel headed for the kitchen to help Bear. Hawk challenged Ghost to a game of pool. The crisis had passed, and the Brotherhood adapted, making room for 2 boys and a nurse who'd somehow become integral parts of their family. Jack found Ethan in the garage later, showing Tyler how to change oil with the confidence of someone who'd done it dozens of times, though it had only been a few months since he'd learned himself. Think it'll work out? Jack asked Sarah as they watched from the doorway. William getting help? Sarah leaned against him, her body fitting perfectly against his side. I hope so. For Tyler's sake. He needs his father. And if it doesn't, then he has us. She looked up at Jack, certainty in her eyes, at all of us. As night fell over Riverdale, the Iron Horseman clubhouse glowed with warmth and life. In the kitchen, Bear taught the boys to make his famous chili, a recipe guarded as carefully as any club secret. Diesel and Ghost argued good-naturedly about a baseball game playing on the television. Hawk organized the weekend ride schedule, adding notes about which routes were suitable for Ethan to join as a passenger. Jack watched it all from his seat at the bar, contentment settling deep in his bones. Sarah brought him a coffee, sliding onto the stool beside him. "What are you thinking about?" she asked. "James," Jack admitted, wondering what he'd think of all this. Sarah smiled. "I think he'd be proud. His brothers kept their promise. Protected his son when he couldn't." "More than protected," Jack mused. "Ethan's transformed since that first day he walked in here. Stronger, more confident. He's becoming the man James would have raised him to be, with help from the family James trusted most." Sarah's hand found Jack's, their fingers intertwining with practiced ease, and that family has grown to include more than just the Iron Horseman now. Jack squeezed her hand gently. "Is that what we are, family? Isn't it?" she challenged softly. "Not by blood, but by choice, by showing up when it matters, by keeping promises even when it's hard." From the kitchen came a burst of laughter, Ethan and Tyler covered in chili powder, Bear's deep rumble joining their boyish giggles. The sound wrapped around the clubhouse like a warm embrace. "Family," Jack agreed, the words settling into place like the final piece of a puzzle long unfinished. "By choice." Outside, the spring rain had stopped. Stars emerged in the clearing sky, pinpricks of light in the vast darkness. Inside, surrounded by brothers, chosen rather than born, two boys learned what it meant to belong, to be seen, to be valued for exactly who they were. And in that belonging, they found what everyone seeks, but too few find the promise of brotherhood kept through storm and calm, through grief and joy, through all the seasons of a life well lived. Together. 5 years later. The rumble of motorcycles announced their arrival long before they appeared. 32 Harley-Davidsons in perfect formation chrome gleaming in the summer sunshine. At their head, Jack Davidson led the procession, his beard now fully silver, but his back still straight, his presence still commanding. Behind him rode Ethan Miller, 16, now on his own smaller bike, a gift for his birthday that he'd restored himself under Diesel's guidance. Beside Ethan rode Tyler Prescott, matching leather vests, marking them as official junior members of the Iron Horsemen. They pulled into the parking lot of Riverdale High School, killing their engines in synchronized precision. The graduation ceremony wouldn't begin for another hour, but the Iron Horseman believed in being early for important occasions. Jack dismounted, adjusting his formal vest, the one reserved for weddings, funerals, and graduations. Sarah met him with a kiss, her nurse's scrubs exchanged for a summer dress that matched the blue of her eyes. "Nervous?" she asked, straightening his collar. "Not me." Jack nodded toward William Prescott, who stood awkwardly by his BMW watching the biker's arrival with a complicated expression. Though he might be. 5 years sober, William had rebuilt his life and his relationship with Tyler. He'd stepped down as special prosecutor, focusing instead on family law. He and Jack maintained a cautious truce, connected by Tyler, but never quite friends. "He's trying," Sarah said quietly. "That counts for something." "It does," Jack agreed, watching as Tyler approached his father. The resemblance between them had grown stronger as Tyler matured, but there was an ease in the boy's manner that William had never possessed. A comfort with himself that came from knowing exactly where he belonged in the world. Ethan joined them, nearly as tall as Jack, now his father's features increasingly evident in his maturing face. "How's it feel?" Jack asked him. "First day of your last summer before senior year." Ethan grinned. "Pretty good. Especially since Diesel promised to help me rebuild that '87 Sportster for my project." "If your grades stay up," Sarah reminded him, though her tone held no real concern. Ethan had blossomed academically once he found his confidence. "They will," Ethan promised. "I need that engineering scholarship." Jack squeezed the boy's shoulder, pride swelling in his chest. James Miller's son, planning for college, for a future his father hadn't lived to see, but would have celebrated with fierce joy. The Iron Horseman Youth Program had expanded beyond Riverdale, now operating in 3 counties. Every weekend, the clubhouse filled with kids learning mechanical skills, carpentry, the value of hard work, and brotherhood. Many came from broken homes. Some, like Ethan and Tyler had been, were lost and searching. All found acceptance, structure, purpose. Across the parking lot, Bear was setting up a grill for the post-graduation celebration. Diesel arranged tables while Hawk organized the food. Ghost, still the quietest member, supervised a group of younger kids decorating with school colors. William approached Tyler at his side. "Jack," he nodded. "Sarah, quite the turnout." "The Iron Horsemen believe in celebrating milestones," Jack replied, "especially for our honorary members." Sarah, always the peacemaker, smiled warmly. "We saved seats for you in our section, William, front row." The gesture wasn't lost on any of them. 5 years ago, such civility would have been unimaginable. Now it was part of the careful dance they'd all learned for the boys' sake. "Thank you," William said, genuine gratitude in his voice. I appreciate that." As the two men continued their cordial conversation, Ethan pulled Tyler aside. Ready for your big speech, valedictorian? Tyler grinned nervously. Well, ready as I'll ever be. Did you read it? Only 5 times, Ethan teased. It's good, man. Really good. Tyler glanced back at the unlikely gathering: his father, the attorney, Jack the biker, President Sarah, the nurse, and the assembled Iron Horsemen preparing for celebration.
None of this would have happened without you, he told Ethan quietly. That day you forgave me for being a bully, for taking your dog tags. You changed everything.
Ethan shook his head. Nah, Jack says we all just needed to remember what really matters. That family isn't about blood. It's about who shows up when it counts. Iron Horseman philosophy. Universal truth. As they headed toward the school building, Ethan felt his phone vibrate. A text from Jack. Your dad would be proud of the man you're becoming. So am I. Ethan smiled, tucking the phone away. Behind him, 32 bikers and their families prepared to celebrate his best friend's achievement. Before him lay a future bright with possibilities shaped by the Brotherhood that had claimed him as their own. The promise made long ago had been kept, not just to protect, but to guide, to show up, to transform one day into always. That was the power of Brotherhood, not by blood but by choice. Always.